Chuck, do you hope to make a big move, medium move, or do you think that will happen in the off season? Or I'm talking about before the deadline. Do you hope to make a big move?
Well, clearly it'll depend on the market and the opportunities that are there. The primary focus, I guess most of the calls I've had have been about players on expiring contracts and the rental players, if you will. That seems to be the main focus of most of the calls I've had. And saying that, we're willing to listen on just about anything if it makes sense. The one limiting factor right now, there's some teams that are really tight on the cap or tight on LTIs. So when you're looking at maybe a bigger move or a hockey move, you just want to make sure you're not limiting your market too much. And it's often easier to do it in the summer, but that doesn't mean something can't pop up. But the focus right now has been mainly on the rentals.
Where do you stand on salary retention? Are you open to it? Is that a big part of the conversation?
Yes, we're open to it. Yeah.
Chuck, assuming that you guys are selling at the deadline, that would be the
We're
third.
selling.
Yeah. This would be the third straight deadline that you've had to sell it. Is that an indication that perhaps you guys are sort of restarting, the process here of building the team back up?
Oh, absolutely. I think we've been pretty clear about it all year, particularly after Couturier and Atkinson went down. And, the priority this year, well, one, I think for Torts and the coaching staff to get to know the players and for all of us to see who's going to be part of the solution going forward. But, some of these injuries have afforded us to provide a longer runway for some of the young players to show what they can do and establish themselves in the league. And, the rosters change on a daily basis, but as of a few days ago, I believe we were the 7th youngest roster in the NHL. Last year, at the beginning of the year, we were 30th. So we're getting younger. Torts and the staff have been working hard on building the standard and trying to reestablish the Flyer identity of being a hard team to play against. Defensively, we're getting better. I mean, clearly we have work to do. It's going to be a longer process and maybe what we want, but I think we're starting to build the right way and integrate a lot of young players into our team.
Chuck, in the process of trying to sell, what are you looking for in return? Are you looking for draft capital in the future? Are you looking for younger players, prospects, veterans? What are you looking for?
No, either or. In terms of picks or prospects, we want younger assets. So if we can, some players realistically it'll be some kind of pick, and but prospects work well too, and so some combination of both would be great.
Chuck, after the All-Star break, there was that letter out from John Tortorella basically saying that we're in the first step. Yesterday he said we're not making the playoffs and that next year might be rough too. I guess, what do you see as the timeline right now to getting this back on track in terms of being a contending team?
That's difficult to say right now. I mean, we're not looking to take shortcuts right now. Again, I think we've a lot of young players have stepped into our team this year. Most years it seems like you have one or two young players pushing. This year between Cates and Tippett and York and Allison and Frost, all these guys are starting to establish themselves as NHLers. I think the goal next year would be, can 2 more kids push their way onto the team? There's a group of 6 or 7 where those 2 could come from. But look, we want to keep getting younger. We're going to have an opportunity to draft a real good player this year. Right now, I think we're sitting in the 8th slot. There's clearly Bedard is at the top of the heap, but there's another group of 7, 8 players after that we think are very good. So we're going to have an opportunity to get a good player. We have 2 more first-round picks the year after. So, I think we have to continue to work to get younger and continue to build around some of the assets we have here. And I'm not sure on the time frame. I've seen some teams flip it pretty quickly. It probably depends on how well you draft and how well you develop, and that's going to be our focus.
You guys have shied away in the past of using the word rebuild specifically. Do you feel like this is a rebuild now, or is that still a word you don't really want to use?
It's terminology. I mean, are we going to gut this team? No, we're not going to gut this team. I'm not looking to trade Tippett and Farabee and Frost and Gauthier and just trade everybody and start over. But clearly we have to get younger and we have to find some more young assets. So, I think what we're going to try to do is probably more in line with what most of the teams in the league have tried to do the last few years. And you keep some of your better assets, and if you can move a couple other players out to get younger, then we'll do that. But, the timing of how you do things is important, and It really depends on the market, and the goal is to get better and to get value, not just to move guys out.
Yesterday, Torch said that TK will probably be out long-term, and you would, clear things up. Is he out for the season, or?
I don't think so at this point. He may be. I know he'll be in contact with the doctors here over the next 2 to 3 weeks. He's on the bike today. He feels pretty good, and I think he's hopeful he can come back, but whether or not that's realistic, we'll see.
Can you give us a time frame? He's out for at least 2 weeks, or week to week, or?
I'd say week. It's going to be more than 2 weeks, but I'd say week to week, and we'll probably have a good update in maybe 3 weeks' time.
How about Sean Couturier, Chuck? It seems like he's back on the ice and doing some things. How is his progress looking?
Yeah, it's been going really well. He's skating, skated today, shot a lot of pucks. I don't know if you guys were around when he was doing that, but he looked pretty good. Off the ice, he's ramping up his development and rehab, sorry. Is there enough runway for him to play this year? I don't know. The back is feeling great. He's missed a lot of time. Can we get him into hockey shape? With the time remaining, I'm not sure, but I think we're pleased with the progress, and he's in a pretty good frame of mind. I think he's excited to be out on the ice and doing more. It's been a long process for him, so I think it's more enjoyable right now, and he's feeling pretty good.
If he isn't able to play this season, how confident are you that he would be able to come back and make an impact next season?
Well, I think we're really hopeful to be able to come back and play, and I think we've seen through this, there's a lot of things you can't control, but I think the medical people are confident we can get him healthy, and then, after missing the time that he's missed, I'm sure there'll be a little bit of an adjustment, but he's a smart player and a competitive player, and certainly a guy that, we really hope can get back to where he was.
You mentioned seeing some of the young players start to flourish. Obviously, Cam York was your very first pick, and he was sent down to the AHL, and now he's making an impact. How much has his development, as well as some of these other guys like Tippett, maybe changed the organization's view of what they need to do and just be patient, stay true to what you guys were doing beforehand?
Yeah, they're it's been great. Obviously with young players, they're up and down a bit. They're, Cam and Owen have had great games, had some okay games, and they're still finding their way in the league. I think Cam has about 60 games in the league, and I think I've said this before to you. Rick Wilson used to always say it takes 200 games for a defenseman to sort of find that consistency and sort of find what he does well and do that consistently every night. So there's still a growing period for both of them, but they both clearly look like they have some attributes we need. They both have skill. They both have the ability. Cam moves the puck really well. He's really defended well, and for a lot of this year we've asked him to play the right side, and which he can do, but it's not as easy for a young defenseman moving the puck all the time. You're on your backhand a lot, and he did a pretty good job of that. So I think both kids, the fact that they've kept getting better. Noah Cates, it's been kind of incredible watching him play. He's, there's been very little inconsistency in his game, which is unusual. But, it's been nice to see these players play. And, with Couturier and Atkinson, missing the time that they have, players like Cates and Frost and even Tippett have probably gotten a little more opportunity to play even bigger roles than maybe what they would have. And in the long run, that's good for us. Obviously, it hurt us this year, but in the long run, that's good.
When it comes to giving them those options, I know you guys have resisted doing up and down, up and back with a lot of the young guys. Once the trade deadline does pass, how do you plan to approach the younger prospects when it comes to giving them stability versus experience up here?
It's a great question. We're only allowed 4 recalls, so if you keep anybody on your roster as of the deadline, they're up for the year. Lehigh Valley's in their first real playoff push since 2018, and to me, it's a part of the sign of the growth of our organization, the fact that we're pushing, we're in a playoff spot, and we're going to have a chance to hopefully make the playoffs. So to me, that's the priority. We have 7 kids completing their first year of pro hockey down there, players from Forster, Brink, Denoyer, Addard, Ginning, Wisdom, and Urson. And they're all important players on that team, and they're helping to push that team into the playoffs. So to me, that probably trumps anything that we could give them up here. They have a good group, a tight group, and they like each other, and they're playing hard for each other. So I think to see how far they could go would be the best thing we could do for their long-term development. In saying that, we do have the 4 recalls. So, I'm sure at the right time, we'll decide who that is. I mean, Denoye's making a push to show he wants some games. There's some kids down there right now. Zamula, Adder, Jennings played exceptionally well. Those kids have probably all earned the right to get a look, and we're not going to be able to accommodate all of them, short of a lot of injuries. But the focus will be mainly on Lehigh Valley.
One
Chuck,
guy who
you
has
are-
popped up in trade rumors is Kevin Hayes. Obviously, he has 3 more years left on his deal, but he's in his 30s now. He's on the older end. I guess we talked a little bit about timeline. Is he a guy where he potentially doesn't fit your guys' timeline, and you might look to move him whether at the deadline or in the offseason?
Yeah, potentially. It's a fair question. Again, it'll depend on market and opportunity and fit. But again, I think I've expressed to teams, look, we're open to ideas and we're willing to listen on lots of different types of scenarios. So, without addressing Kevin specifically, because I don't know if it's fair to single out names, but clearly, we'd like to get even younger if we can, and if we can do that, then we're going to try to do that.
You have
Another guy
frequent
who's
communication.
come up, another guy who's come up in conversation has been Nick Sealer. I'm curious, what made you want to take a chance on him after he didn't play for a year, and what has it been like seeing him progress and become an every night NHLer?
Yeah, well, it's a real credit to Nick. Also, I think to Torts and Bradshaw, the job they've done with all of our defensemen. I think Nick and Ristolainen in particular have taken massive strides this year and really improved. Nick, to miss a year at that point in time and to be able to come back and continue to grow his game is a real credit to him. But he's a character kid, and it doesn't surprise me. There's teams that would probably have interest in him. And he's still a valuable player for us and a player on a real good cap number for next year as well. So I think he's somebody that I could tell you probably quite a few teams have interest in.
Chuck, Dan Hilford, he was added to the front office the other day. Is he going to be somebody that you rely on, or is he strictly the business side of it? Because I know he took some of Dave Scott's duties over. Is he a guy that's going to be working with you on the Flyer side, or no?
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of communication and integration between the two. I still report to Dave, but I'm looking forward to meeting Dan. Actually, I'm going to get a chance to meet him today for the first time in person, so I'm looking forward to that. And we try to work as close as we can with people on the business side, and literally, two sides of the river here. But there is a lot of things we work on together, and I'm looking forward to it.
Speaking of Dave, is he totally on board with the timeline of the process here, of how you're going?
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with Dave and spent a lot of time with him this weekend, and I think we all recognize where we're at. I mean, it's we're not making the playoffs this year. I think, again, I can throw numbers all day on a points percentage basis. I think we're the 5th most improved team in the league, but clearly that's nice, but we're still not good enough. But, we do want to get younger, and we want to continue to get better. And it's not easy to do, but we're gonna work hard at it.